Hello, everyone. Welcome to Revit Intro. This is where I am going to talk about the user interface and talk about a few of the tools that we'll use mostly as interiors. So, um, I opened up my Revit, and your Revit will probably include some of these sample projects. I've opened up a few things, so mine's a little bit messier. Um, but first and foremost, when you open Revit, this is kind of where you should be. So if you come over to the left side, you'll notice there's two things that you can open. You can open a model or you can open a family. So a family is like something like this, which is like a chair or a coffee table that somebody built that you can incorporate into your project. And a model is where we want to be. So opening a model will open an existing model, but we want to just open up a new model. So this is usually where you'll start, model and new. The template file will come up as Imperial Multidiscipline, which is a commercial template. So if we click Browse, um, then we'll click on the residential default, and then we'll click Open and OK. And that will bring us to a brand new clean project that we can look at here. So first of all, I'm going to go through every tab and talk about what we're looking at here. We've got a lot of buttons and a lot of different things. So I'm just going to go through step by step what we need to know. So first off, really quick, how we navigate in Revit. So there's this little panel over here that will show you how to move when you're in this model space. So if I click on this 2D button, it will pull up this icon. And if I click the zoom tool, it will let me zoom in and out. And I'm holding down on that zoom and moving my mouse in and out. I can also click the rewind button and I can go back to um, a previous position I was in. Or I could use this for the pan tool. When you want to get out of a command, you'll click escape, and that will get you out of a command. Now you can do those same things with your mouse, so you can zoom in and out with your track scroller, and then you can press down on your scroller to pan. So that's another way to do that. Then this zoom tool, if I make a little box, it will zoom into where I make that box. And if you click the down arrow, there's a bunch of different ways that you can zoom depending on what you need. So that's where we're at for how we navigate in this space. It's similar to most softwares where you can pan and zoom. So then we're going to come up here to File. So if we go File, we can open up a new project. We can open up a existing project. We can save our project. We can save our project as a template or something. We can export it as a PDF. You can also export a Revit file as a CAD file. So you can compress your Revit file and make it into a CAD if you needed to do that. And then this is where we'll print. So exporting to a PDF is pretty quick and easy, but you can also use the print feature as well. So that's our File tab. And then we've got our Architecture tab, and this is where all of our architecture tools will be. So we're going to start here with Wall. So if I click on the wall, you'll notice that this Properties panel changes. So my cursor is kind of this little plus sign, and so that means I'm in this command. So if I click this drop down, it will show me a bunch of different types of walls that I can choose from. So it defaults to this 6-inch wall. So I'm just going to draw a wall to demonstrate this. And I think we'll do 40 feet and 40 feet. So I'm just drawing, and without clicking, I'm typing in how long I want those walls to be. So now I've got some walls. If I click the drop down for wall, I've got some other options there as well. Next, we have a door. Same thing in the properties panel, the properties of this door, I can click the drop down and find a bunch of different doors. These are just doors that are already loaded in. So I've got a 36 by 84 door. Once I drop that in, Revit will know to create a hole in the wall. So you can't place a door unless, see how it has an X on it? I can't place a door unless it's hosted to a wall, because that doesn't make sense. Revit is a comprehensive 3D model used to generate detailed project documents. So it is comprehensive, and that's nice for us because it does a lot of that work. So if I place this door, but I actually want it to be on the other side, I can just click space and it will change the orientation. If I want it to be on this side of the wall, I move my cursor to which side I want it to be on. So say I want a few doors there. If I click that, I can use my arrow keys to nudge it. And then they've got some other types of doors too. So they've got like a sliding closet door as well. Same thing with windows. I click my window, and if I click my drop down, it will give me a bunch of different options. So if I select this door, this window, and just start placing doors, it will automatically place those doors, windows into the wall. So if I placed a window and it's actually the wrong way, I can just click these little arrows to change the orientation. So same with the doors. If I click here, it'll say, do you want the door swing to be this way or on this side? So that's an easy way to adjust it. Okay, next up is components. So same thing, I click on components and I come to property and it has a bunch of preloaded in items here. So if I click on this toilet and just drop it in, and they've got a table. So there's a couple of things. And this dotted line is just showing up. That's just part of Revit. It kind of helps you draw in a straight line and things like that. So these are 3D elements that will show up in your model. They've got cabinets and all sorts of things. And then you can also load more items in, and we'll get to that. So there's components, and then you've got columns. There's structural columns and architectural columns. So if I click on my architectural column, I can just go ahead and I can place those columns wherever I would need to. And then same with a roof. You can add a roof, a ceiling. It automatically goes to automatic ceiling. If I just hover over, you see that red box. If I just click, it will give me this warning. None of the created elements are visible in floor plan first floor view. That's because our first floor plan view is cut at 4 feet. So because we're at 4 feet looking down, we can't actually see the ceiling, but it's just letting us know we did place the ceiling, but you just can't see it. So that's fine. And then we've got the floor. So every time I click on a command, it will bring up a way, like how do you want to draw this floor? So it comes up with, I can either pick a line, which is this tool here, or I can draw it with a line or a rectangle or whatever I want to use. So I'm going to use a rectangle and just draw a floor and click OK. And it doesn't look like it did anything, but it did draw a floor. And then the curtain system and the curtain grid and mullions are for glass walls. So if you were to use a curtain system or a wall over here, you could add mullions and things like that. Then we have railings. So if I click on a railing and it brings up again this drawing feature, I can choose how I want to draw that railing. So I'm just going to pull this out and I'm going to draw a railing on the outside of this building here. And then I'll click OK. And then it created this railing for me. And then same with the ramp. If I say I want my ramp, maybe I want my ramp to start here, and I'll go to here. And then I'll click OK. So it looks like my ramp isn't long enough. I'm not really worried about my ramp right now because I'm not building a ramp, but that's how you would build a ramp, whether you'll go up from somewhere or something like that. It'll be more comprehensive when you actually have an application for it. And then the stairs, Revit will calculate those stairs for you. So if I wanted to do a spiral staircase, I would click on that and then just click where I want it to start. And then I click OK, and it created a staircase for me. And I can move that up and things like that. So there's my staircase. And then next we have our model elements. So model means that it'll show up in 3D. So if I click this model line and I make an annotation, looks like 2D, but it will show up in 3D, same with model text. So I'm going to come up here to this tool, this little house tool. And this is what I've created so far. So you'll notice I've got my floor down here. I've got my rail. I've got my ramp. I've got my ceiling. Down here is a face select tool. I use this one a lot. If I turn that red X off, I can select a face. I'm going to right click and I'm going to hide this ceiling. So now I can see my stairs. There's my swirly stairs and my toilet in the middle of the land and my columns. And then here's the model lines that I created. So then if I do model text, and say I need a sign for this building, and I just click, now it's created a 3D text. So if I select that and I want to pick a new face, say I want that to be on the building, then I would just click the face of the building. And it is upside down. So I'll just rotate it and now I've got my model text. So that's for like signage or any other reason that you would need model text or 3D text in your model. Okay, so that's our model group, and then same thing. This is just broken geometry, so I could make that. I could right click and make that a group. Or I click on make group, thinking of SketchUp. Create group, and I could call that box. And now when I click on it, I can move it as a box. Okay, so then we have our room and area. So this is, Revit will actually create a room based off of the boundaries of the wall. So since this has 4 walls, it makes sense that this is a room. So if I click on that, that now gives me a room, and anything in this room will be under this tag. But what if I have an open concept and there's 2 different rooms? That's when we would use a room separator. So if I were to use the room separator and go from wall to wall, and then I click on my room again, now I can place another room. And if I click into these, I can change the name. Or however I want that to be. I guess that wouldn't make sense to have a living room and a bedroom. And then if I click on this tag and come to the property dropdown, I can change it to just a room tag without the square footage. And then the area tag is more for area plans and if you want to show full square footage and things like that. You can also, if you hover over the tools for a little bit, it will show you what that tool does. So so this creates an area plan. You can use it to communicate a bunch of different things. And then an opening would be if you had a chimney or something and you needed to make an opening in a roof or in a wall or a floor. You could use these opening features for that. Then we have our grids, which these grids are used to organize your information. And we can make them like the exact, maybe they're 4 feet apart. And so we make a 4-foot grid, and then you can place your lights really easily, and it just makes it a little bit more organized. So that's what the grid is for. This set work plane is what I used for the model text. So because Revit is a 3D software, you can't just draw anywhere. You have to tell Revit, I want to draw on this face of the building, or I want to draw on this wall or this floor or something. So if it's not allowing you to draw something, you may need to pick your plane or set your work plane. And then we have reference plane, oops, which are lines. So they're like this green dotted line. It's kind of green. And these will not print. So this is like when you put your plan on a sheet and you say, this is where I want my view title to be. You can use reference planes, or you can say, this is the corner of the sheet. And so then you can place your plan in the exact same spot every time. So that's what reference planes are used for. You can put them wherever you want and whatever would be most helpful to you. And it will not print. So that's that setting of the reference plane. Okay, so now we're going to move on. So there are a lot of tabs here in Revit, but we don't have to worry about them all. So we have a structure tab that we aren't in because we don't do structural work. There's a steel tab that has different tools for that, a precast tab, a systems tab. So this is like ductwork, pipe work, all that sort of thing, plumbing, mechanical, and all of that. So we won't be in those tabs. So we're just going to skip those tabs. We don't use those. For the insert tab, we will use this tab. So this is where you would link a Revit model. If we have a Revit model that we need a link, this is where we would go. Or if we have a CAD plan that we want to make 3D, this is where we would do that. You can also link a PDF or an image. You can import a CAD or a PDF or an image. And then this is where you'll find more components or families to add into your project. So first I'm going to do this decal feature. So this is where you can actually put like an image, just like, it's kind of like a sticker. So if I do this little paper with a starburst and I click on it, oh, I'm going to place a decal. And of course, and here we run into the excitement of Revit. Okay, so maybe I'll have to look. Okay, it does not want me to place a decal. Okay, well, I'll figure that out and we'll get back to decals. They're pretty fun. It worked just the other day, but now it doesn't want to. So we'll come back to that. So if we come to load Autodesk family, I hope that you can see this menu. If you click on load Autodesk family, it will give you the library of all of the components that Revit has to offer. So if I wanted, say they don't have a sofa preloaded in and I want a sofa, so I'll click sofa and then load. It looks like it already had a sofa in here. So then if I come to architecture and component and sofa, Then I click sofa, and then I can use my space bar to change the orientation. And now I've got my sofas. So that was in our Insert tab and Load Autodesk Family. So that's where you get more items that you may not have. Okay, now we're going to move to our Annotate tab. So this is all 2D elements. So I was talking about how model elements were 3D, so you could see these things in 3D. And the Annotate tab is all 2D, so it just shows up in 2D. So if I start over here on the left, align, these are all my dimension tools. So if I click align, I just click from one place to the other, and it will show me my dimension. Linear will do the same thing, where you can go from one place to another place, and it will create for you a dimension. Then we have an angular. So if I wanted to know, so notice how the blue dotted line is going to the middle of the wall. You can change that up here to wall faces. Gonna see if I can get my spotlight back on. Okay, so if I go from this angle to this angle, it shows me this is a 90-degree angle. So I just choose two angles or two lines, and it will show me the angle. That's how you create an angular dimension. And then radial would be for circles. I don't think it will do this table. It will not do that table for me. And then arc would be like around this arc, I want to know this one to this one. So that's how you would do a dimension that's on an arc or a curve. Okay. So then we have our detail lines. So if I were to mimic this over here, and then come to my 3D, you'll notice it's gone. So it's still here because it's a 2D element, but when I go to 3D, it does not show up. So that's the difference between a detail line and a model line. Then we have regions, which are kind of like hatches. And it pulls up a way for me to draw things. So if I click on this rectangle tool and I create a square, the filled region, this is where I would change what's in there, is a diagonal crosshatch. And if I click OK, there's my hatch. If I go to Edit Type, and I uncheck masking, it will show me what's underneath. Also, if I click this, it will show me my square footage. So if I do a filled region, it will show me that this is 1,640 square feet in here. So that's filled region. And then we've got a revision cloud. So if you have, if you're working on documents and there was a change and you need to show, hey, I actually added this toilet, and click OK, then that will show a clouded revision. So it's really clear what we changed. And then we have our text, which is just 2D text. So I can put, there's my text. If I click my text, same thing over here with properties, I can change the size. But just like the model lines and detail lines, if I go to 3D, that text doesn't show. But it will show in 2D. Okay, and then you can also check your spelling and do find and replace, kind of like AutoCAD. So if I were to do find and replace and I were to find hello and replace with wow. I can find all and then replace all. And then it changed that text. Okay, so then we have the tag by category. So this is how we're going to tag, for example, our walls and our windows. So if I just hover over the icon and select one time, it will add a tag. So this door, I can rename that to 1, and it will say, if you rename this tag to 1, everywhere where this wall is will be named 1. Do you want to do that? And I can say yes. And then if I do tag by category again, all of these walls are the same, so they will all pull up as what I named it, 1. And then it will just give the windows a random number, and you can rename those by just clicking in and changing them, and they'll all change. Same thing with the doors. And if you don't want the leader line, you can just come over here to the property of that tag and just uncheck leader line and apply, and you can move that over with the move tool, or with this little move icon here. So that's tag by category. And then if you lost your room tags and you don't know how to get them back, you can come up here to tag all, and you can click room tags and OK, and then they'll show back up. So that's what we've got here. We're going to skip a few of these things that we don't work with, and we're going to come down here to symbol. So this is where you'll find 2D elements. So everything in Annotate is a 2D element. So this is where if we were to go back to insert and load Autodesk Family, and if we go back to annotations, if I search for north, it will give me a few options for a north arrow, and then I'll just select one and load it in, and that will be found in Annotate and Symbol, and it will show me my north arrow. So then I can select that, and if I want it to point up, I can just select the icon, go to Edit Type, and then we're going to, let's see here, arrow center. I'm going to put it at 0. Oops. Okay. This is a different north arrow than I've used before. So there is a way to change it. Arrow 30 degree, none. Okay, we'll change that back to whatever that was. And click OK. Oh. It did not work. Okay, well, I'll have to figure that one out as well. Oh, it's right here. 38, north arrow. Okay, it's not 0, it's actually 90 degrees. That's what we want. Apply. Wow, here we go. There is our north arrow. Okay, so there were a couple places to find that. So north arrow, north angle is 90 degrees. I knew that was simpler than I was making it. Okay, so next we're gonna head to our Analyze tab. This is where you can analyze the actual functionality of your building. We won't be using any of these tools except for this tool over here, the path of travel. So this tool over here, just note that that's in Analyze and Route Analysis, Path of Travel. So we'll be using that. And then massing and site, you can actually bring in like a geographical view of the site that you're working on. You can add topsoil, you can add their site components, you can add trees to your project. So that's kind of how that works. but we won't be really using this tab. But just so you know, that's where that would be. Then the Collaborate tab, usually you'll have a mechanical person and a plumbing person, an electrician, and all sorts of people collaborating on the same file. So this is where you would coordinate that. Now we're at our View tab, which we do use a lot. So the View templates are, oh, let's see, I bring that back over here. View templates are an opportunity to set a setting to apply to a drawing. So, for example, if I wanted to add, okay, it will not let me add. I wonder if it's because I'm on Zoom that it won't let me add. But if you were to add a template and then say turn off dimensions and the grid lines or things like that, you can apply a template to several drawings so that you don't have to turn everything off for every drawing. That's mostly used for really big projects, so we won't be using view templates just because there's no need for it. We can go through 2 or 3 sheets and turn off things we don't need. Then visibility graphics is our great tool where it has our model categories, which are our 3D elements, has annotation categories, our analytical model categories, our imported categories. So if we imported a CAD file or a Revit file, and then we've got some filters. So we come to our model categories, and if I just click W, it will bring me down to walls. And if I turn off walls and click OK, it will turn off my walls. Now the hotkey for this is VV, and it will just pull that up. So I can go back down to walls and turn those back on. So you can either go VV, another hotkey is VG for visibility graphics, or you can go to View and visibility graphics. Then we have this feature, the thin lines. So if I click thin lines, it just helps me see what I'm drawing a little bit better. It just depends on what you're drawing and what you need. So you can click that on and off. There's also a hotkey up here as well. These are like shortcut keys for things that we use a lot. So it has like the dimensions, text, the 3D view, the section view, and thin lines. And then if we have any hidden lines, that's where we would show them. And then we get into our rendering. So if I were to do the drop down for my 3D and grab a camera view, so say I'm gonna get a camera view of this area right here. So here's my lovely stairs that go up into a ceiling. Down here, we can change the graphics to coarse, medium, or fine. That's just the level of detail. The visual styles, you can do a wireframe, which is a see-through. We can do a hidden line, which is the typical. We can do shaded, which will just show the colors. We can do consistent colors. We could do textures, or we could do realistic. And realistic takes a little bit longer, but there we've got kind of a more realistic where it adds the shading and things like that. So if I come over here to render, if you cloud render, it will just save it to your computer. And if you do a render just here in Revit, it will keep it here in Revit. So if I change it to sun and artificial, we don't have any artificial lights. But if I click render, it will take a minute and it will take whatever I drew and it'll render it for me. So it looks pretty dark. If I adjust this exposure, it's dark because I don't have any lights in there. And there's a render. So It looks a little bit more realistic. I can adjust the brightness there. But if I would have really tried, it could have been a nice render, but here we are. So that's how we render. Twinmotion is a plugin, an extra plugin. We won't be using that or learning that. And then the 3D view. Revit will ask you if you want to save your project pretty periodically. Um, it will just say, hey, you haven't saved your project in a while. Would you like to save it? And it's always nice to save it just in case Revit crashes or something like that. So that's where we're at. Nope, I've got now a Copilot thing happening. Okay, perfect. So if I come to my 3D view, these are so I'm often toggling between my floor plan view and my 3D view, just to see if what I'm drawing is making sense. So that's a great tool up here. And then your camera views are a nice view. So this drop down is camera and walkthrough. And notice you can only use certain features. Sometimes some features only work in plan view, and sometimes they only work in 3D view. So if it's grayed out, chances are that feature doesn't work in that view, but that doesn't mean that it will never work. So for example, I can't render a floor plan in this view like this. It has to be a 3D view. Okay. So now that we've got that, we also have a walkthrough, which is kind of like a video. So then you'll place your steps and it will generate a video as if you're walking through the space. Okay, so now we have a section, which it would be if I cut my building in half and then I double click on the section view, it will show me what my building looks like with that section. Then if I do a call out, which was in our view tab and call out, and I do a call out maybe of this corner over here. And then I double click on that blue circle. Now it will show me an enlarged plan of this. And because 3D or Revit is a 3D software, if I change something here, it's not like AutoCAD where you can like copy and paste or create a new plan. If I deleted these sofas and I come back to my first floor, they're gone everywhere. So that's something to keep in mind as you're working through. If you get a new plan or a new view, or if you're in a new tab, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a new project. It's all the same. It's all the same project, no matter where you are or how you're viewing it. So that's a section and a call out. And then the plan views, if you have, say we add a second floor or a basement or something and it's not showing up here, this is where we would find it. So if we go to floor plan, it would pop up here that you have this floor plan, but it's not showing up in your views. And then an elevation, if we click on elevation, this box shape is a building elevation. But if we go to interior elevation, and then I turn towards this wall, so if I click on this, it will give me this blue box. And it will show me this wall is what I'm going to elevate. So then if I double click on that triangle there, I can click the side of the box and just pull it up. And it looks like my ceiling is cutting through my windows, so that's not great. So there you go. Okay, that's how you do an elevation. And then we've got drafting. A drafting view is basically just a blank piece of paper. So this is where we would draw like a detail. So if we have, maybe we have some tile or something that we're zooming in on, and we could use this drawing in our documents to show a design element. So that's if like you need to show something and you can't, you don't necessarily have the time to 3D draw it in Revit or something like that, or just a way to detail. Then we have legends and schedules. So we'll talk about this a little bit more. but they're up here or they're down over here in the project browser. So this home button means that you'll see everything. This box means that you'll see your views, the legend, and the schedules, and then your sheets. And then these are your families and your groups and your links. So all of that in the project browser, I like to use these icons to help me organize where things are. So a legend would be, it's kind of like a blank sheet of paper where you can create keys or little, like a floor finish legend where you can say this pattern is T1 or et cetera, et cetera. And then a schedule would be like a window schedule where it shows, hey, this is my window, this is what type of window it is, this is the color and the finish, things like that. So it comes with some preloaded schedules, and we can make a finish schedule and a furniture schedule and all sorts of things that pertain to the project. So that's where we are there. Then View also has like interface views. So this is just another way to toggle between these tabs. So I have my first floor open, my 3D and my 3D one view. So if I click this box, I can change them up here. Or if I click this down arrow, I can change them down here. Then if I click, so tab view is what I have up here, and then tile view. So if I want to be working here, but I also want to see it here, so I can say, okay, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete this, then I can kind of see what that's doing to the 3D model as well. So it's just another way to work depending on what you need. Then this is our user interface. So this shows us, so if I uncheck project browser and my properties, now it's gone. So if you ever get to a point where you don't have this stuff over here, we do need it. So we'll come over here to user interface and we'll just check our project browser and our properties. You can also grab it and you can bring it to the other side. Some people like to have them both open so you can see everything that's happening. Some people like to have them just completely not on at all. So your whole thing is open and you can have these off somewhere else. But you can always come back, or you can have it up like this. I don't really like that. So we'll just put we'll put those back. I'm gonna move this like this and get it to this side here. And we'll just fix this back to how it was. And we'll get our properties back. So I'm gonna hover over until it goes blue half. And that's how I want it to be. So I like it like this. But however you want to rearrange those is up to you. Then you can also do a canvas theme. So it looks kind of like AutoCAD. This sometimes I've had problems in the past with students not being able to see certain things or it didn't do certain features. So it's probably best to just keep it on the white canvas theme. Okay, so that's where we're at with that. And then the Manage tab is where you're going to find all of your materials. So that just pulled up these materials here. So we've got a bunch of different wood and glass and plastic. And then we can create our own materials and all sorts of things. So this is where we'll manage that. And then we've got our phases over here. It keeps pulling up on this other screen. Okay. So our phases are right here. We can also find phases in the property panels if you zoom all the way down. So this is super important for Revit is phasing. So we have show all and new construction. If we were doing an existing building, we would need to go through a couple different phases. So just know that phasing is found in properties all the way down to the bottom. Um, then we have our Modify tab. Well, we have our add-ins, which is like if you were to add in different extensions. And I do have PyRevit as an add-in that we'll talk about maybe later in another class. But our last tab is our Modify tab. So this is where we have our drawing tools. So if I click this little icon, you can tell that this icon matches this icon down here. So this is my edit properties. So this is where I was trying to edit that north arrow um, family. And then this properties button will turn the properties on and off. Maybe you don't want to see the properties, but that's the properties panel. And then these are all of the tools you can use to create with. So if you have two items that aren't joined together and you want to join them, you can join them in that way. And then there's a cut tool to cut and a cope tool. So this adds coping to beams so that it will come through. And then we've got our split face tool, which if we were in 3D here, and say I wanted this wall to be two different materials, if I come to split face and select it, I can split, and notice how this triangle will show you that's the midpoint of the wall. So if I split that face and click OK, now that wall is two different walls. And if I come to my paint tool, I can click paint. And then let's see if I come over here and click a material. Now I can paint that two different materials. Oh, I think that's a see-through material. So some of the materials won't have a pattern, but that's how you would do that. So now I've got two different materials on that. And then we've got some other joining tools. This is our demo tool. So we would just click on this and click on something to demo, and it would demo. So that's if we have an existing plan. Then we have the align tool, which is also AL on your keyboard. And then WA is wall. So I'm just going to draw two walls. So say I have these walls and they look kind of wonky. If I click the align tool, I'm going to change this to faces, wall faces. So I first click what I want it to align to, and then I click what I want to be aligned, and then it will just change it for me. So now it's one straight line rather than it being different like that. Then this is our move tool. So if I select this wall and click the move tool, I can move that wall where I want it to be. This is the offset tool. So all of these tools are pretty similar to what we're used to here. So it'll just offset. You can change up here how far you want it to offset. And then this is our copy tool. So this will take, so if I select all of these things and then click my copy tool, I can just continue to copy however many things I want. Then we have the rotate tool, which will rotate our items. So we just choose where we want to rotate. We'll click once, click again, and then we'll rotate. And then we've got our mirror tool. So if we click the mirror tool, you can pick an axis that you want it to mirror, or you can draw an axis. So if I draw that axis, it will just mirror that to the other side. And then you've got, similar to AutoCAD, the array tools, the split tool. So this will split your walls. split with a gap. If you want to pin something, so if I click on this and pin it, then if I try to move it around, it won't move because it's pinned. But if I move this one, if I try to grab this one, it will move. And then I can just unpin it. Then for, um, so DL is detail line. So if I have some things like this, um, I can click this trim and extend tool, and I can click the two lines that I want it to trim to, and it will get rid of that access for me, like so. Um, and then we've got measure between two references. So this is kind of like, oh, I have this right here, but I kind of want to know how, I don't necessarily want a dimension. I just want to see how far that's going to be. So that's about 6 feet. It's kind of like a measuring tape, like, well, um, are these two sofas close enough together? That's about 8 feet, whatever. And then we've got our measuring tool again. Um, and our grouping and creating parts that will turn your wall into different parts so you can adjust it as you need to. So that's what we've got for our modify tab. And now we're almost done. We're just going to talk about our properties. I've already kind of talked about it a little bit, and the project browser and a couple things down here. And then that will be our intro. I have no idea how long this is. So hopefully we're still in it to win it here, but um, we're going to start here with the properties panel. So it always starts off with our graphics tab. Um, so this will always show the scale, um, the display model, all of the details. So if I were to hit this wall, for example, it'll show the location line, where it is. It's on the first floor. Um, it's 20 feet high, so maybe I actually want it to be 10 feet high, and I can change that there. Um, and it gives you just all of the information. This is how long it is, 15 feet. And then this is its phase and everything like that. So similar to like if I clicked on this toilet, it's on the first floor, it just gives you all the information. And if you click edit type, you can change. Maybe I don't want it to be a porcelain. Maybe I want it to be a wood stained. Don't get a wood toilet. Scary. Okay. Um, so that's where I would edit that. So that's everything you click on will have properties to it, and it will show you, and you can change it to something different. So I could change that to a chair. If I click on that chair, it will give me different information. And I can edit. Usually I can edit the material. If you get a family from somewhere else, it may not allow you to edit it. But that's where you would do it, is in here. And then the project browser, I kind of already went over this, but they're the hotkeys here. So oftentimes I usually just delete these views. They're just preloaded in views. And you're gonna do that for your assignment. That'll be part of the instructions to delete those views. Um, and then if you right click and click rename, um, and then type in what you want it to be named. We don't want to rename the corresponding levels. So that's where you'll adjust things. And then here are our sheets. If I were to double click on this sheet and click on views, and actually just delete that. So if I come here to my first floor plan and then click on views, I can click on my view and drag it onto my sheet. And so now I've got my sheet, and this is what I would print. Um, okay. Then I did already kind of go over our view control bar, which is this down here. So say if I go to my visibility graphics and I go to annotations and I turn off my sections and maybe I go to turn off my site. Um, if I come to this little light bulb, it will reveal everything that I have hidden. So if I see my section in red, so if I click on that, I can say unhide. And then I click on the light bulb again, and there it is. So oftentimes if we're going to be um, tracing a PDF or something like that, we'll eventually want to hide it so we just see our work. And then if we need to see it again, we can hide it and unhide it. Um, so that's what those are for. That's mostly what we use is the hiding. Um, Sun path is for renderings. And then, yeah, your visual styles. And then over here, we have a couple different tools depending on what we need. Like I said, the one I use the most is the select elements by face. So if I select this and there's no red X, that means that I can select my floor by the face. If I have it with a red X, if I click in here, it won't select that floor. So it just depends. Sometimes it's annoying to have it on because you don't want to select by face, but sometimes it's really helpful when you want to select by face. So that is a crash course on where a bunch of tools are and kind of a little bit how to use them. So hopefully that's helpful as you're starting off. And that's all I have for you today. So we're looking forward to our class next week, and we'll see you then.